And who are you exactly?
For your name, I'll give you mine 12 times over. I'm Camillo. I hope we get along well.
All right, we're here to talk about Camillo today, and it's not really a should you pull. It's just more of, how good is he? Because people have to make some decisions, are you going to awaken some MRs or lower in order to actually work on these selection quests? Is this somebody that you should prioritize? Can you get them over time? Should you go for just their TMR, whatever? We're going to figure that out. So let's start by just kind of breaking down what he is. He's a light element Dragoon, cost 80, and he also has the sniper and pugilist subjobs, which is pretty awesome. And then because he's main job Dragoon, he has 4 jump, which is also very nice. So just looking at this is a very good combination of jobs. You got high potency of Dragoon, you have the range of a sniper, and then you have the striking of the pugilist. That's 3 different damage types, and that people aren't going to be able to, defend against all 3 of those damage types. All right, so as always, I need to thank warofthevisionscalc.com for the information used in this video. So we'll start off by talking about Camillo's stats, and they're fine. So he's got a decent HP, he's got a very high attack value of 505, and then most importantly, he's got 62 agility, which isn't off the charts, but it's definitely good. And then you might also notice the 10 spirit. It comes from his master ability. So this is an important, an important thing here, because he's meant to be kind of a Helena counter. He's going to be a magic resist Dragoon, so he's basically just a Dragoon, but then he has this magic, not even tanking, just like magic durability, kind of like a magic bruiser. So that's all very good. The rest of his stats, they're all fine, and he just looks like a solid stat line for a 120 unit. We'll also take a quick look at whether you should take him all the way to 120, or maybe you should take him to 115. So if we take a look at the difference column, you can see that he gets 64 attack. I consider 64 attack to be significant. Otherwise, like HP, dex, luck, nothing too important there. The agility, there's no difference in spirit or anything. I think you're just going for the 120 skill and then that 64 attack, and the 120 skill is going to be worth it. So definitely somebody that you would take to 120. And again, that's not really that big a deal. You don't need to collect any shards. You just have to, beat those quests. If you beat the quests, you get him, and then if you complete all the missions, you get him to 120. So it's something that we're all going to be able to do. It's really about sparing the blossoms for him. Camillo's master ability pumps up your light unit's HP and attack, and then he gets some spirit, which again is a hint as to how he's supposed to be used, possibly as a Helena counter, but maybe just, as a magic bruiser. His TMR is very interesting though. So this is an armor, and it has the ability to increase light attack by 25 for 3 turns for allies, and accuracy by 20. Now, obviously Yuna, Sakar, they're not going to be using this because they can't equip armor, but there's so many units that can. El Sorel, Wall, Ramza, I'm literally forgetting, but there's so many light units that can take advantage of this and would want to take advantage of this. So this is definitely something to target as someone with light units on your account. You're going to want to get this, even if you're not interested in Camillo going to 120, you might be interested in going to 99, so you can get this TMR and then beef up your light teams. Camillo is a light unit, which means he's going to have a dark weakness, and we can mitigate that a little bit. We could use the Luminous Armlet or something like Demon Wall Esper, but he's still going to have that innate dark weakness. And then for his damage resistances, they're not fantastic. So no slash resist is red flag, because there's so many slashers and there's so many dark slashers. And then the negative 10 to both the strike and to pierce, again, not fantastic. 10 plus to missile is fine, and then 20 plus to magic is very good. So he's clearly meant for a very specific role, but if you're using like an actual tank, then that's great. So if you have King Mont and then, Camillo is just getting hit by AoEs and you're fighting against Helena teams, then he's probably going to be just fine. But in other metas, you might see him drop off if he's getting hit. Hopefully he can just stay up in the air, or stay away, or have somebody, take damage for him, whatever it is. So that he doesn't have to, worry about these weak resistances. And then otherwise, he has the stop resist, the paralysis resist, and the slow resist. So stop and slow, those are two good out of 3. Paralysis, I'm sure is going to come in at some point. That Skahal EX one day. But there's other units that will probably apply paralysis. So always good to keep those in mind. Now we'll take a look through Camillo's kit and kind of decide, what way he's going to be used. So the Dragoon passives, typically you don't use them jump +1 because you already have jump 4. and then HP up 15% is definitely better than it used to be with EX jobs, but it's not always good enough on its own. However, his gets upgraded from EX jobs to give 40 defense penetration. That makes it pretty much a must include. And then otherwise, range up 1 and the missile attack up for the sniper. Those are definitely interesting if you're using him as a sniper, and that's something I'll talk about a little bit later. Then the pugilist ones also, again, so a way to increase accuracy. It has some niche effects for PvP against evade, and then you also have the warrior spirit for some attack. So if I'm going to use Camillo, I'm probably going to have warrior spirit. I'm probably going to have his HP up, and then if I use the sniper sub, then I might have to see, depending on the map and the range that I need, or depending on how much damage I want him to do, I might actually use that missile attack up instead. Then as for his counters, we're looking at the Dragoon's Blade, which is the heal yourself, the counter smoke for the sniper, and then the flurry counter for the pugilist. And I don't really like any of them because I think Camillo is probably going to be at range a lot of the time, depending on what he's doing, and he's not going to be able to use most of these counters. But if someone does go up and whack him, then I do like the Dragon's Blade for the absorb, and I do like the flurry counter, but you're not going to be using the passive most likely. So even though it's got a huge potency and a big chance to proc, I think you're probably just going to be rolling with Dragon's Blade most of the time. Then we have the main job skills, and it's your typical thing. We've got jump, horizontal jump, vertical jump, and dragon dive. Now, the big thing with jumps is they have casting times, but they also have super high potencies. And with Camillo, you get an upgraded vertical jump. This is actually going to have a 265 potency. It's going to have a chance to confuse the target. It's got an increased range. It's really just all around a very powerful attack, and you want him to get in close to be able to use this. And then that is actually the part of this kit that is kind of confusing. You need him to build up his AP. Maybe he has bells, maybe he doesn't, but then you want him to close in and start jumping on people, and that's where the sniper might get in the way. And yes, that could be fine if sniper is getting the job done, but if you want him to use his jumps and you're stacking things like pierce resist for that, then sniper might actually be getting in the way of you being a dragoon. So that's definitely something you have to consider. Then finally, for that 120 skill, he gets Magic Barrier, which is just a 50% damage reduction for 3 times. Now, this is going to be broken by any sort of Magic Barrier break, which Helena has, but overall, it's still very, very strong. These barriers can make anybody effectively take, some pretty serious magic damage, and this is definitely how he's going to be able to approach magic-heavy teams without being killed, so that he can go jump on them and kill them. With the sub job for Dragoon, you really don't need it. There's nothing that would be used on auto, but there are 2 reasons to use it. So one is you're playing manual, and whether that's PvE or live PvP, that's fine. And you want to use Dragon Standard to get the jump 1 and the move 1. That's definitely super impactful. The other reason is to just make sure he uses his jumps. And that's not a huge deal anymore because we can turn off skills. But if you're not going to use any of the other skills on the other jobs, which I doubt, I doubt that you're going to not want to use those, you could equip this, but really what we're going to be looking at is using this sniper sub, and maybe you're using it just for the buffs it provides, or maybe you're going to be using it for the sniper skills. But what I see here is a defense penetration buff of 40, and then a team buff that increases attack by 30%. That's really important to give Camillo something that will keep him back if you need him to, without having to equip a TMR that gives him a team buff. So being able to run over to your allies and then use this, I think it's called target share with people, that's super duper important. Otherwise, for the projectile attacks, the main thing is a physical damage barrier break. The barrier break arrow, that is absolutely key. It's key for live things, it's key for auto. That's really huge. Arm shot is not very strong at all, and then the slow shot, that's good too. They're just not strong, and he's not going to have a weapon that increases his missile attack. So his missile damage, unless you're using something like his TMR to increase his light attack, things like the Final Fantasy XIV vision card, or maybe the Red Chocobo vision card, you want to increase his light attack, or have, maybe you have him with Frederica and you have Frederica's Dream on, because otherwise he doesn't really have a lot of potency in these sniper skills, but he does get a bit of range with them. Finally, we have the Pugilist sub, and this is my least favorite, even though I love the job, and it's because they didn't give him the Demon Purger, and they didn't give him the defense penetration, the Pugilistic Mastery that gives you a boatload of strike attack and then some defense penetration, and I don't know why not, because he would love that strike attack to be able to do some damage, Now, this is still going to be a good tech because people don't defend against strike damage, and it might be a way of, if someone's, Pierce comes back in and everyone's building Pierce defense, then Camillo might need to start punching people in the face to do some damage. But you also get some cool skills here. So the Iron Body Stance gives you 15 defense and then gives you some HP as well. That's actually a very powerful skill, so definitely worth considering. And then he has a self-heal skill as well, that you could use. But honestly, I'm probably going to be using I'll probably use this for the Iron Body Stance, or I'm going to be just using the Sniper sub for the defense penetration, because that's being able to stack 80 defense penetration is a pretty big deal. Now, one last thing I have to mention is that Camillo doesn't actually have a limit burst, so that's something that you don't have to worry about. Now, that can be disappointing to some people, especially somebody as vibrant as Camillo. He probably was going to have a pretty cool limit burst, but at the end of the day, there's so many limit bursts that we don't use. You can just pretend he has a limit burst that sucks, and then you'll be fine. When you compare Camillo to other DPS, he looks pretty good. I mean, his attack is high, his agility is fine. It's not super high, but it's not bad at all. And then he has access to a ton of defense penetration, multiple damage types, you name it. But I still think he is actually kind of lacking in certain ways. Other units can hit with big AoEs instantly, and Camille's going to have these big potencies that are, hidden behind casting times. And how that shakes out is really going to determine how good a DPS he is. Now, of course, if he hits somebody with one of these jumps, he's going to be doing tons of damage, and that's definitely really cool. So if you want to do something with his casting times, then you basically have a couple of options. If you have a maxed trousseau and you're working with a light team, then you can actually make his Dragon's Dive 1 tick faster. However, if you want to make the rest of his casts faster, you're going to need at least 200 casting time reduction, and you're going to have to get that from a VC or something in order to actually get him to jump faster if you're noticing that he's not jumping fast enough. But overall, I think that he's going to be a really powerful unit. I just don't think that his DPS is easily accessible as it is for other units with similar power. So how good is Camillo? I think he's going to be an interesting counter to Helena. He's going to be able to take some magic damage. He should be able to survive, a few hits and then go in and hopefully one-shot her. He can actually break her barrier and then run in and jump on her. The potencies on his jumps are super high, and he's going to be one of the early accesses to light EXs for people that want to make a full team with Yuna, with Wall. Being able to have a full team of light EXs is pretty awesome. The cons for Camillo, though, are that his resists aren't very good. He's going to be killed by other units, physical units, units that are dealing slash, pierce, or strike damage. He actually has low mobility to get in range for his jumps. He might need a movement TMR to close in on your opponents as quickly as possible. With Victoria, she has the thief lore for the extra move, and that was often crucial with her getting across the map and attacking. Then, of course, we have these casting times for the jumps in general, and if people are too fast for him, then he's not going to be able to land his jumps, so you might have to play around with that. But at the end of the day, he's not really a high-risk unit because everybody can just get him over time. And if you're curious if you should, spend a bunch of light awakening materials to get your team ready to take on the light selection quest, well, then you can just go take a look at some videos on YouTube. Myachin has some videos of Camillo in action fighting Helena, and you can make that decision for yourself. But as far as I'm concerned, I think he's a pretty good first unit for selection quests. I think that he's worth building, especially considering we don't have that many light EXs yet, and that he's going to be able to counter Helena for a lot of people. So definitely gets my stamp of approval. I think that he is a good but not great unit, and that he is safe to build for, because honestly there's not that many light MR and lower units, so you'll definitely get some use out of them for other low cost content. That's going to be it for this video, and I am going to give you some homework since I am a teacher. So you can go ahead and like and comment if this was a video that was useful to you, if you want to share your own insight, or you could join us on Discord and do so there. And also you can hit the subscribe button because that's going to help me out. And then otherwise, I'll see you in the next video. Thanks for watching.